Hi there.
Hi.
We're here to answer the most important question about Harry right now. Is he gay or European?
I was gonna make it. Does Bruno
Bruno Mars is gay?
Yeah, I was gonna make a joke for that, but I liked the direction you went instead.
Like I said, I'm just gonna be stuck wanting to talk about nothing but Legally Blonde instead of this movie. I also watched the first Twilight film because I was hoping I could get a laugh out of it, but I just got bored. So I was like, all right, that's over. I'm not going to watch Eclipse, even though it's right there. So instead, I put in Rango. Then I finished that, and then I put in Legally Blonde. It's a bright pink DVD case.
So that's what you've been doing all day today, huh?
Yep.
Lucky. I've been having to deal with customer service. Ugh. Well, whatever.
Yeah, that's the good thing about working with working with Texas AgriLife right now is it's only a 5-day-a-week job unless you're one of the people that has to water the greenhouses on weekends.
Well, I work 5 days a week too, but I'm off Sundays and Wednesdays, so it's kind of split up a little bit.
Yeah, God. But yeah, watch Legally Blonde, and then I have Legally Blonde 2, and you can't expect me not to watch the sequel.
Yeah, especially if you have it.
Exactly. 2 bright pink DVD cases just right there next to each other.
So.
Oh, God. Yeah, what are we reading? Continuing with Time to Fix the Mistakes.
Yay. You know, if I could time travel, I'd go back in time and tell you, hey, this fan fiction isn't as cracked up as it's supposed to be. We probably should
cracked. Very cracked.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God. Anyway.
We've made it to Chapter 6.
Yes, Chapter 6, The Next Potter Generation. Unfortunately, I doubt this involves Picard. Star Trek joke.
Yeah, I need to watch the entirety of Next Generation.
I'd love to, but unfortunately, I can't access Netflix right now because I need a new remote. The one for I think it's like the Roku or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The remote will turn it on and off and will control volume, but none of the other buttons are working right now.
Huh.
Yeah.
You know, you could probably just pick up a universal remote from Walmart for about $7 or something like that. If you wanted to, anyway.
It's August 17th, 1979.
In contrast to the light attendance of the inaugural session of the Truth Commission, this meeting was packed. The commission had arranged to use the Diagon Alley Hall on the days when it had particular prominent people to question. I think it meant particularly prominent, but whatever. The hall had been near to full when Orion and Wahlberger Black had been called to testify.
Wahlberger. Yes.
The perks of being a Wahlberger.
You have?
What? I said the perks of being a Wahlberger, because I was...
Oh, I thought you were saying that you've been to a Wahlberger.
I have not, no.
You know what that is, right?
No.
Mark Wahlberg's family owns a burger chain called Wahlburgers.
Yeah, okay, I remember now.
Oh, shit, no, what? Okay, I don't think it's just Wahlburgers.
You've mentioned it before. It sounded familiar, but I couldn't remember.
Okay, yeah, the restaurant is called Wahlburgers, as was the show. Got ya. People also search the Shake Shack, In-N-Out Burger, Five Guys, Yard House, and the Cheesecake Factory.
Cheesecake Factory.
I've never been.
If you like cheesecake, it's an amazing place.
I mean, it's the best pie, so yes.
They've got some really good cheesecake. It's overpriced, and good Lord, cheesecake is terrible for you, but damn it, it's delicious.
Yes. Thank fuck for my metabolism.
Uh-huh. Well, they do have a low-fat cheesecake, which is just a...
Here's the thing. Fat is not as bad for you as sugar. Way back whenever cardiac problems started being a thing, an investigation was launched under orders of the president at the time. After he had a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember which president it was, but
Mm-hmm.
one of the ones that had a heart attack in office.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening is that the sugar industry paid off the researchers to say that it was fat causing the problem. It was actually sugar that was causing the problem. Because of the whole thing is that fat, your body spends energy to break it down.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't do that with sugar. It's directly metabolized and then like converted into fat.
Yeah,
when not needed.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. Maybe not on the podcast, but
basically the whole thing with like low fat or fat free foods. When you remove the fat, really what you're doing is you're removing the flavors. So to compensate for that, they dump sugar in.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why you do not eat low fat or fat free.
Mm-hmm.
You go sugar free.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully one that isn't using an artificial sweetener that fucks you up in other ways. But besides the point.
Stares into the abyss of my Coke Zero addiction.
But
it's pretty bad.
There was a similar situation with the bread industry when the food pyramid was first made.
I think it was the same time we were talking about this, but they like said that you need more bread than what you actually need.
Yeah, basically because of how small the grain section was, the bread industry started tanking, and they paid off people to increase the size of the bread section to include more servings per day, despite the fact that bread is really fattening.
Well, grains can be very good for you when you're like actively working out and stuff like that, because that's
yes, but think about all the things you eat that are technically bread. Sandwiches, crackers, biscuits, rolls, muffins.
My mom makes the best homemade rolls. They are like so good.
Pretzels. No, chips or potatoes. Whoops.
Well, they do have potato bread.
But like that's my point though, is like all the stuff that you eat that is technically in some way bread.
Anyway,
a lot of it. This day the hall was overflowing.
With bread.
That was America's calorie count.
Albus Dumbledore would be testifying under duress in the effects of Veritaserum. The audience was even willing to sit through the 30 minutes he'd been allotted for a public statement before the questions began.
Albus, I have a few questions for you. How long has the affair been going on? About 3 months. And your first name is Albus, and your boyfriend's name is Grimwald. I thought you said best friend. Grimwald is my best friend.
Grindelwald stands up indignantly.
You bitch! I cover for you no more.
Background to Legally Blonde. This time the musical.
This man is gay and European. And neither is disgrace. This isn't even that funny.
Yeah, but this story causes so much pain. We're latching on to things that are just slightly funny and laughing, so the pain goes away slightly.
I was like, as soon as Dumbledore was on the stand, I was like, oh god, perfect opportunity. He is gay and European.
Oh, jeez.
The witches and wizards were expecting blood, and secrets revealed. Just gonna out him in front of the whole courtroom? You completely closet case. And the downfall of a revered man.
Harry thought the whole thing a bit sad. Oh, fuck you, Harry.
You ruined this poor gay wizard's life.
How'd you do it? Time travel.
Was it worth it? No.
What did it cost you? Everything.
Not really. All the things he had to sacrifice happened before all of this. Not even due to his own actions. It cost him nothing. He's just a bastard.
Okay, yeah. I feel less sorry for him. I had never felt sorry for him to begin with, but now I just really don't feel sorry for him.
The old wizard entered the room and took a seat. The entire hall fell to silence, and then the 7 members of the Truth Commission took their chairs. The old witch Marchbanks nodded at Dumbledore, who then turned around and began to speak directly at to the assembled audience. Very odd.
Huh. It's like he's an actually kind of decent human being, Harry. I must thank the Commission for this unusual opportunity to present a statement prior to my sworn testimony. I would like to clarify a few issues that are likely to be central in the question. As has been widely reported, I led until recently a group called the Order of the Phoenix to collect intelligence and act against Death Eaters throughout the country. Following the demise of Voldemort, the group broke up.
At this point, that was the point Harry knew that Dumbledore was going to try to lie to everyone. The group hadn't exactly broke up, but it crumbled under the weight of the allegations against Dumbledore. Pretty sure that would be broke up.
Mm-hmm.
The man would try to couch and massage the truth. Would anyone catch him publicly?
My role as Chief Warlock of the Wizengamot has also come into question. I assumed the role approximately at the same time I became headmaster of Hogwarts in 1970. I did vote to confirm Bartimaeus Crouch as head of the DMLE, and I did approve many of his department's requests concerning the disposition of orphan children and heirless estates. I regret those decisions.
Harry frowned. The old man only regretted he'd been caught. Well, you're going to regret me kicking you in the balls.
Boot, ass, teeth. I wish for the sake of all those he injured, that I had chosen differently, that Barty had chosen differently. I knew nothing about the doctoring of reports happening within this department, nor had I heard about his Auror's practice of killing the wounded at battle scenes.
That Harry did believe. The sole fact probably angered Dumbledore more than any other concerning what Crouch had done. Dumbledore had wanted them alive, indefinitely, in order to rehabilitate them.
The Phoenix, the members... What?
I was going to say, clearly Harry hasn't seen how hell is in Adventures of God. There's kitten therapy.
The Phoenix, the members of the group have all consented to testify before the Commission in the coming weeks and months. I have already spoken personally with every member to ensure that we committed no atrocities. I feel confident that the testimony will prove this out. It will also prove that, even with Mr. Crouch's aggressive stance on combating Death Eaters, we were first on scene more than twice as often as the Aurors were. I hope to be able to discuss at greater length my very deep concerns about the hows and whys of this continuously delayed response. No doubt it costs many lives and the destruction of much property.
The old man had gone from being defensive to sounding like a politician again, trumpeting his own accomplishments. Stumping for votes in an imaginary election.
Okay.
Stump. Verb. What does it mean to stump? There's 3 ways to stump. You can ask someone a question they can't answer, you can travel making political speeches, or you can stomp.
Probably the travel political speeches thing, I would guess. Or stomping, I mean, either or.
It's just stomping his foot. Votes now! And, okay, that's noun. The verb. To reduce to a stump. Dare/challenge, to frustrate the progress or efforts of. To clear land of stumps, to travel over a region making political speeches or supporting a cause. To walk over heavily or clumsily. Stub since 3. To walk heavily or clumsily, to go around. But he's not doing it traveling.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing with if it were a political speech. You have to do that. So the only other options would be daring them or challenging them for votes.
Which Yeah, that he probably just used or whoever wrote this, he or she probably just used stumping because they in the wrong connotation, maybe.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure a lot of people on both gender spectrums hated Ginny for the sole fact that she kept Harry from hooking up with Hermione.
I mean, I don't. I understand ship wars and all that, but like, come on, it's a fictional character. You could use that energy and turn it into something creative. I mean, I guess they kind of did in this aspect, but something.
At least with Jacob and Edward, it was that the fans of the show were wanting to fuck that. I mean, the fans of the series were wanting to fuck that character, not wanting someone else to do it. If it were just that the fans were upset that they didn't get to fuck Harry. That would at least be understandable.
No, they're playing matchmaker.
God damn it. Shit. Besides, why does nobody ever apply the multiple worlds interpretation to shipping?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I'm the kind of person that'll ship multiple different pairings involving the same character.
Yeah, well,
I don't have I have a shipping web.
That's well, good for you, I guess.
All I'm saying is it's a lot harder to get upset whenever you just don't fixate on one ship.
Yeah, and
like, oh, well, this one's not canon, but this one I have is. It's like the same character.
Yeah, no, I can understand that.
Anyway. Granted, most of those that I have are also built on chemistry between characters, and I've seen a lot of ships that aren't.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wait, have they spoken? I mean, I could at least understand ones that are like based on like the actual people playing or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were doing ships based on voice actors or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Shit, where were we? Oh, that's right. I was just confused by the phrase stumping for votes.
Mm-hmm.
He's not traveling. He was using the Aurors as his practice dummy. He was actually lecturing them when he was being called to account for his own misdeeds. Dumbledore had really had planned this out. Start deflecting attention from himself within the first 5 minutes. Masterful and sickening.
Harry only hoped that Marchbanks and the others wouldn't fall for it.
Granted, the fact that like a ragtag group of like rogue wizards were able to respond faster than the wizard police is a bit concerning.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like how in most superhero stuff, there's usually at least someone concerned about the fact that vigilantes are taking care of police business.
Mm-hmm.
It's an understandable concern. Like, I would be concerned.
Mm-hmm.
As for the distant past of the Dumbledore family, I assure everyone that it has no bearing on the present discretion of the recently ended war. I have received assurance that today's questions will not touch on these painful topics that have lately become of much speculative interest.
Harry thought that Dumbledore was just putting off the inevitable conversation about his sister in that disastrous meeting between Albus, Aberforth, and Gellert that resulted in the death of an already damaged child. He would have to answer some of these questions eventually. Perhaps not as this commission, at this commission meeting, but eventually.
Me and my boyfriend got into a fight, and there was some collateral. Okay.
I mean, it's just terrible, but funny, and I feel bad for laughing, so I'm trying not to, but it's hard not to.
See, that's the problem with international audiences. You have to censor stuff because of the fact that other people in other countries are sensitive to things. Like gay Dumbledore.
Yeah.
And so we don't get to see a gay ex-lover wizard fight in Crimes of Grindelwald. Because we had to sell this to countries that don't like gay people for money.
Yeah,
and people complain about movies pushing agendas. Fuck off, you idiot.
You see, I still haven't watched Crimes of Grindelwald, and I don't think
you're not
going
missing
to.
anything. Imagine the first magical beast. Not magical beast. What the
Fantastic Beasts.
Imagine the first Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, but even worse.
The first one wasn't terrible.
It was passable.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting, and it's like, oh, cool. This is an interesting thing. Oh, they obliviated everyone, so this is all for nothing. Damn it.
Let's see where the. I welcome the Commission's questions, Madam Marchbanks. Dumbledore turned around again and sat down.
The old witch nodded at Dumbledore, and a ministry representative appeared on stage and doused the old wizard.
What is this, a wet robes contest?
Oh, boy.
What else am I supposed to think?
I would love to see a young Dumbledore, like, story. Like, just, like, how he became, like, the Dumbledore we know in the Harry Potter series. Just, like, how, like, his experience at Hogwarts and just everything.
I mean, if that one book by Rita Skeeter is to be believed, apparently it was through his inability to make friends.
Well, I need to reread the Harry Potter series, but, well, so he was basically Hermione if Hermione hadn't met Harry and Ron.
I guess kind of. And also if Hermione was gay. In a time whenever gay people in the country were considered illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, also part of a minority.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, God damn it. Old Madam Marchbanks didn't bother using any embarrassing questions to verify if the Veritas Seer was working. And the name of your boyfriend is...
Carlos.
Grindelwald. I mean...
Oh...
I thought you said best friend. Mr. Dumbledore, how well did you know Bartimus Crouch prior to his appointment to lead the DMLE?
He'd been a lead Auror and headed up a brigade of Aurors for more than 10 years. I had seen his performance while acting as a member of the Wizengamot for trials in which he participated, and then had little more to do with him until his appointment.
He was an absolute master at juggling. Wrong performance. And did you conduct any research on his views or likely methods?
Yes.
Describe the research you did.
Harry smiled. The old witch was starting with a bit of conversation Dumbledore hadn't yet seen exposed to the general public. A bit of conversation that Alistair Moody didn't even remember because of Dumbledore's obliviation of the grizzled Auror. From what Harry had seen in other meetings, Marchbanks normally didn't dig down into details until she had established the preliminaries, but Dumbledore's statement had done much of that. She intended to have a showy beginning, and to falsify some of Dumbledore's statement and blacken his image from the start.
He's already part of one minority. You don't need to pigeonhole him into another.
It's okay. They're the good guys here.
Oh, wait. Wrong black. Oh. I asked other Aurors about Mr. Crouch. I asked some of the Wizengamot members who presided over the cases he'd been involved in. At the time, the information I received painted Mr. Crouch in a very favorable light.
How about commissioning any research into Mr. Crouch's likely opponents?
I did not commission research of that sort.
Harry kept his smile to himself. Dumbledore had just fallen into a trap. Harry had been sufficiently disturbed by the memories he'd stolen from Dumbledore's pensieve that he'd turned many of them into articles to be published in Ireland. The first article would cover exactly the conversation where Dumbledore and Moody discussed Mr. Crouch, and what had been done to ensure he rose to head the DMLE.
Anyway, I really have to ask, how on earth the person who wrote this article got this information? But oh well. Did you commission someone else to commission research into the candidates for the DMLE? Question was worded perfectly.
Yes.
So did you ask someone to do research?
Veritaserum, used on a powerful mind, could be resisted with weak and ambiguous questions. It worked better and better the more specific and damning the question.
Or stupid.
Yeah, that works too.
That is just a... But that means that he commissioned research.
Uh-huh.
Oh my... Oh. Did you commission someone to do research? No. Did you commission someone to do research? Yes. One of those, you're not telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You still commissioned research of that. That's not... Madam Martin's... Wait, what?
I have said circular reasoning.
Yeah, very. Madam Marchbank smiled up on the stage. It was visible in the audience. The fact that she moved her face, I would hope so. She was unraveling his word game. What word game? And the little bits of misdirection Dumbledore could plant even under Veritaserum. She was doing it in public.
Did you have one of your associates of the time, the current head Auror Alistair Moody, place incriminating evidence concerning Crouch's predecessor and the other likely candidates?
Dumbledore paled, and it was obvious he was now trying to fight the drug. How did you...
By that answer alone, it was obvious that Dumbledore had done something.
No, right. I read an advanced copy of an interesting article slated to appear tomorrow in an Irish newspaper called The Magical Defender. I can't even come up with a good joke about that name. Apparently, they're reporting you had Mr. Moody do things for you, and then you obliviated him of the knowledge.
Dumbledore sat almost choking in surprise.
Right, shit. It is true, he finally admitted. Wait, oh shit, lost my place. He did the work and wasn't happy about it. I removed his memories to prevent complications later on.
Guilty conscience type complications.
Among others, yes.
Why did you believe Barty Crouch was the right person for the job?
He wasn't scared at first to say Voldemort's name. He had the right idea on tactics.
The room fell silent at that admission. Dumbledore had picked Crouch because of the things Crouch would permit the Aurors to do. The man had just leapt off the astronomy tower under his own words.
Is that a reference to how he died?
Probably.
And he would make sure Voldemort wouldn't win.
And what gave you the right to interfere in the process to ensure Crouch's election?
I'm the most powerful magic user in Britain. Of course it was my right. Huh. It's almost like someone is using a similar justification to do similarly shitty things.
But it's okay, because he's the good guy. The hall fell... The hall fell silent for nearly a minute before Madame Marchbanks recovered her wits. She'd apparently never expected Dumbledore to say such a thing. It was, frankly, the kind of thing a Dark Lord would say. In polite company, everyone knew of Dumbledore's magical power, but no one spoke of it or the rationale behind his position of headmaster of Hogwarts or the others he'd assembled and later lost.
Mr. Dumbledore, Marchbanks eventually said, no one likes to believe that they don't live in a democratic world, but you're suggesting might makes power, not votes.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. A shudder rippled through the audience again.
If you're so powerful, sir, why weren't you the one to kill Voldemort? You dueled him half a dozen times according to official records.
I tried, madam. I tried, but I could not fell him.
Perhaps there is more hype than power in your actual self, Mr. Dumbledore. There's something weird about a wizard using a wizard in like late 70s era England using the word hype.
You know, it might have been better if they would have said perhaps there is more bark than bite in your actual self, Mr. Dumbledore. But whatever.
That doesn't quite make sense with the situation.
Hey, I don't know. Or Harry stayed only another 20 minutes. The questions got harder and harder on Dumbledore, and he appeared a massive fool. Harry only imagined the entire situation got worse as the hours drug on.
As they drug on, Harry himself got harder and harder. Also, for a phrase that would have worked better, perhaps you're not all you're cracked up to be.
Yeah, that would have worked too.
As opposed to the bark and bite thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite work with what the sentence was getting at.
Mm.
Harry wondered about tomorrow's Daily Prophet headline. Dumbledore the Dictator, or The Puppeteer Emerges, or Merlin's Memories. Might Dumbledore have erased those two? What is this? A tabloid?
Probably. October 3rd, 1979.
Harry breakfasted lightly. I'm certain that could be used as a verb, but goddamn, does that sound funny?
No, it does.
It just reminds me of in 50 Shades of Grey when the word foisted is used instead of just forced. It doesn't make sense to say it that way in that context. Because, for instance, in this case, you're doing it with a narrator. Like this is a case where the narration ended up saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Usually, you're going to have it to where word choice for the narration, at very least, is going to be consistent. Despite the fact that the narrator is not in and of itself a character, there is going to be a character to the narration.
Mm-hmm.
And so your word choice is going to be something that is appropriate to that.
Mm-hmm.
Breakfasted does not fit any of the verbiage we have seen thus far.
This is dumb. Why would they? This is dumb. Whatever.
Also, there's always the fact that when it comes to stuff like this, the easiest way to figure out what your word choice should be is to say what you're writing out loud after you've written it.
Mm-hmm.
That will help you with the flow of what you're, the flow of reading.
Mm-hmm.
That way you don't end up with, weird phrases. Like, what was that one earlier that threw me off? You're suggesting might makes power, not votes.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a phrase that quite makes sense. Might makes power. Technically speaking, might is power. That's the whole thing. The phrase might makes right is judgment of the mentality that you see a lot of the times of, whoever has the most power has the right to do whatever they say.
Mm-hmm.
Or do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, if this person had proofread what they were reading, that sentence should not be in there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, his anonymous salvo in the new war to clean up the ministry was located on page 11. It was small and easily bypassed.
He read the small advertisement and wondered who else might find it interesting.
Draft Harry Potter for minister.
He hasn't declared his intentions to run for public office, but the public needs him nonetheless.
We shall force him into office.
He has served in the Wizengamot off and on for 47 years and has a compendious understanding of the affairs of government. He's among the wealthiest wizards of our time and is incorruptible. Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. That's great. Freaking
Give me enough time, I can corrupt anyone.
I'm gonna keep reading. He hasn't always sides with the light. Oh my god.
Wait, what?
He hasn't always sides with the light. I think it's supposed to be he hasn't always sided with the light. He voted against Dumbledore's ascension to Chief Warlock and doesn't outright dismiss the dark. He's firmly in the middle, an intelligent man's choice. Oh my god, freaking!
You do realize that centrist views aren't necessarily the most helpful, right, writer? Like, it's good to have some for different things, not take part in vast extremes. But at the end of the day, nothing gets done.
Mm-hmm. You have to take a stand somewhere.
There's no problem with having multiple centrist views. The problem is when everything is that way. Because yes, no situation is black and white.
Mm-hmm.
But when you decide to take a stand on nothing, sure, there are certain things that there's no reason to ever take a stand on. Like Gamergate. No one ever needed to take a stand on that. All of it was fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one side you had, grown men bitching about women ruining video games. On the other side, you had people complaining about, just video games being an over-the-top male fantasy. Neither one of those sides were things that anyone needed to take part in. Because they were both stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But, if everything you do is in the middle, you're, at the end of the day, not helping much.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we need to convince Harry Potter to run for Minister of Magic. He is our best hope for reunifying our broken world. Force him into office.
It
doesn't get a choice on the matter. He must run.
It was appropriately bombastic. Harry wondered which set of witches and wizards would glom onto the idea and run with it. Harris Potter would be a candidate whether he wanted it or not by the end of the month. Good lord, man.
It's another situation of a word that doesn't quite fit the verbiage earlier. Glom. Which, just making sure I have it right. Steal. Become stuck or attached to. Yes. Become attached to the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is the word glom in this situation a bit awkward. I mean, I would have gone with latched.
Mm-hmm.
But it, again, doesn't fit with the majority of what we've read so far.
Mm-hmm. It's like you're just putting big, fancy words in there just to put...
your big, fancy four-letter word.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I'm suggesting a longer word for simplicity's sake.
Okay, not big fancy words, but you're putting in abnormal words for the sake of putting in abnormal words.
And ones that don't quite fit with, I guess, phonetically.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna call myself some sort of, fucking, benchmark or any shit like that for how you should talk. That's a fucking stupid thing to think. But at least whenever I'm throwing in some, unnecessarily large word, or just some word that you don't tend to hear as often, it fits with the sentence structure.
Yeah.
It flows. Glom onto the idea does not flow.
Mm-mm. Not at all.
Oh, God. His poor grandfather. Instead of retirement, the man would be the busiest man in the country for the foreseeable future. You don't get to feel sorry for him. You put him in this predicament.
Harry did not...
The Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse quote. You don't get to like my hair.
Harry did not doubt that the pale announced crop of Proudfoot, Kelman, Spinnet, and Greengrass would fall by the way. Potter would surely win on the first balloting. Even if he protested, he didn't really want the job. Witches and wizards had a definite problem respecting each other's privacy.
All I can think of is this one joke I heard a while back for a movie idea about a man who gets elected president and then realizes he really doesn't want the job and keeps trying to get himself like impeached and like thrown out of office. But everything he does ends up like having positive consequences for the for like the nation.
Huh.
Like he ends up just like somehow completely getting rid of his vice president, and then it's later discovered that his vice president was secretly like a double agent from Russia.
Is this an actual movie or just an idea?
It was just an idea someone had online, like joking about it, and they said like someone responded saying, "Why do I always forget his name? He speaks like
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum." They said they want it, like someone said, "Oh God, I want this, and I want Jeff Goldblum to play the president."
That would be so good.
Jeff Goldblum trying to get himself thrown out of office, but he keeps making the country better by accident.
That would be interesting. I would love to see something like that. It's an original idea.
I don't want to be president. This was a mistake. This whole campaign.
Hey.
He folded the paper and then vanished it.
He walked upstairs to the little room he'd set up on the second floor. It was where he fabricated the magical devices he'd need. He'd finally recreated omnioculars for his personal use. And he'd created quite an unusual necklace there, too.
It made things explode. Today he walked over to the recording crystal that was tied to that necklace. A shiny bauble that had basically compelled Sybil Trelawney to wear it and never take it off once she'd found it. The ramshackle old building inhabited by the Trelawneys had been very easy to enter. Well, that's not distressing.
Harry made it a point to listen to the crystal every few days to see if Trelawney had said anything interesting, or anything at all. The mad woman could spend entire days planning with prophetic cards or rolling chicken bones around in a cup or staring at a lump of glass that had no relation whatsoever to the ethereal plane.
No, I like the idea that she's using grass clippings to predict the future. Not a crystal ball, grass clippings.
She knew she had no gift for prophecy, yet she still spent hours and entire days trying to bring out her inner eye.
If memory serves, her whole issue was not the fact that she had no talent for prophecy, it was the fact that she would unintentionally prophesize.
Yep.
Which would prompt her to try to intentionally prophesize, which she could not do. She could not prophesize on command.
Yeah, her gift of divination kind of mugged her from time to time.
Yeah, basically, like, she couldn't control it.
Mm-hmm.
But she tried to, and that's the whole thing that caused her to be seen as a coot, is the fact that anytime she tried to make a prediction, it would come out wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The entire project took only 20 minutes. The crystal only noted the things she'd said, and most of her conversations had been about haddock and the salad she didn't want to eat for lunch. You're kidding me? A conversation about fish and salad? I am in. I'm very hungry.
The only new thing Harry learned was that Sybil's mother was quite inventive when it came to curse words, and that she was absolutely convinced that Sybil did have the gift of sight. You're just holding back, dearie. You can't be... hold on. You're just holding back, dearie. You can't be lazy, or you'll never be gifted with their favor.
You lazy little fuck. Harry didn't agree with the old woman, but he couldn't afford to be wrong either. Sybil hadn't said or done anything at the time indicated in the old timeline, not a whisper. But Harry would keep monitoring the old fraud.
Oh, excuse me, sorry. Fate would just love to play another trick on him.
Oh, God, I cannot... This author seems to, like, hate all the characters of a thing that that they apparently love.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sybil is a tragic figure. She's someone who is driven near insane by her gift.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's fucked up. She's someone who's discredited because of the fact that she can't control her abilities.
And that was the whole thing with the Hogwarts. At Hogwarts, is they let her in when no one else would, so she had a home there.
I mean, I could have swore that Harry sympathized with her in the actual books, but apparently not.
No, he did in the actual books. The person has just turned Harry into a totalitarian asshole.
Totalitarian dick potato.
Yeah.
Puns.
Yeah.
November 11th, 1979.
Today had been an important day on the old timeline. The day that Petunia got married to Vernon Dursley in a dress that showed she was expecting. She was such a small woman, and the child she was carrying would be such a large newborn. It was no wonder she had been the immediate victim of gossip leading up to this hastily arranged, blessed event. So, in the book, was it actually a shotgun wedding, or are we...
I don't know. It wasn't the details of their marriage were too heavily discussed. It was more the fact that Petunia was a gossip and Vernon was an antisocial shut-in who really only seemed to care about his position in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that both hated Harry, as did Dursley. And as a result, he would exclusively be given Dursley's hand-me-downs, which actually that just sounds like the kind of thing you'd expect from a middle-class family. The verbal abuse, however, less so.
Yeah. Heck, I got hand-me-downs when I was that age. It wasn't uncommon. Let's see.
But that was kind of the whole thing, is it was more just the fact that they were borderline, they were kind of like a Stepford couple outside the house. They were shown to be sociable for the sake of rank, I guess.
Status, yeah.
Yeah.
It was more oh, we're going to be social just to show that we actually matter.
Like the storyline in because that one little thing at the beginning of Chamber of Secrets, in which Vernon had invited over his boss.
Yeah.
And told Harry to stay in his room, and then Dobby levitated a cake and dropped it on someone.
Steamed hams. I'm just
Seymour, I must say, steamed hams. Aurora Borealis.
Just
whenever Aurora Borealis.
Just whenever I think of someone inviting their boss over for dinner, I think of steamed hams now.
Aurora Borealis. Oh, wait, inside of your kitchen. Yes. At this time of day. No. Seymour, the house is on fire. Steamed hams. That is by far one of the greatest musical creations in existence.
Yeah, I'm actually not going to argue because you're not wrong.
I want to hear someone do a vocal cover of that.
Steamed hams.
Just a cover of Steamed Hams Inc. God damn it. Okay, let's see. Where the fuck? Okay. Harry walked down Privet Drive where Vernon and his still living parents had just arranged for a small home at number 4. Harry killed them.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It was as beastly now as it had been when Harry had lived there. The sameness, the uniformity. It's the suburbs. What do you expect?
Well, some suburbs are actually kind of nice, is the thing.
Actually, I just realized something. At very least in the movies, they lived in detached housing, which is rare in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
That's more of an upper class thing. Because most housing in the UK is connected to each other. You aren't going to typically have a fully detached house. I don't know how many times you've seen pictures of it, but like streets in the UK, and you'll just end up with like literally the buildings being like wall to wall.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
But that was like straight up a cul-de-sac. Like those were suburbs. That's.
I'm
God
thinking
now I'm googling English suburbs.
I'm thinking either upper middle class districts or kind of like in between the actual city and the country type thing.
I don't want the suburbs of Montreal. Okay. Cambridge English Dictionary. Oh, God damn it. That's not what I'm looking for. Let's see. Oh, okay. Okay. Why? There we go. Yeah. There we go. That's because this is the kind of thing you would expect from that kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's a suburban neighborhood, but like the houses are all attached to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It
just occurred to me. It was weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess maybe they are like upper middle class instead of just middle class.
Yeah. Is it my line?
The same. Okay, yeah, it's your line.
Okay. Vernon and Petunia would be leaving for their honeymoon in the Cotswolds in a few hours. Vernon had only been inside the house a single time. Petunia had yet to see it. Harry walked, disillusioned, through to the backyard and unlocked the back door. He set foot inside the recently built home, one he hadn't seen since his hasty, disastrous abandonment of the home just prior to his 17th birthday.
You know, the one where him and Dudley actually seemed to be making progress.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Dudley apologized.
Mm-hmm. And, well, Dudley's version of an apology, basically admitting he didn't think Harry was an actual waste of space.
Was that the line?
Yeah, I think he's like, I didn't think you were a waste of space, which from anyone else would have been like, oh man, you jerk. But this one, it was like, good Lord, Dudley has grown. And just, it was a good scene. It really was.
Dudley apologizes to Harry. Yeah, because it was a deleted scene in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Did Dudley know Harry was a wizard?
Yes. Also, I will point out they had...
Yeah, I don't think you're a waste of space, Harry. Yeah. Which I think that was like soon after... I think Vernon might have called Harry a waste of space right before that.
Yeah. And then Dudley admitted that he didn't think Harry was. And it was a really good...
let's see. Okay, synopsis. Uncle Vernon has changed his mind again. The Dursleys were informed by Arthur Weasley and Kingsley Shacklebolt that Harry's life will be in danger when he turns 17, and that the Dursleys, as his relatives, are likely to be under the same threat. Since then, Vernon and Petunia have alternately been willing to accept the order of protection or preparing to refuse it. Today, they are convinced that Harry plans to put their house in his own name as soon as they are gone. Harry repudiates this, asking why he would want to do that. In any event, he already owns a house. Harry's arguments are bolstered by Order wizards who have arrived to transport and protect the Dursleys, Dedius Diggle and Hestia Jones. When Dudley says he's going with Daedalus and Hestia, Uncle Vernon's protests are rather deflated, and he decides that this has been his intention all along. Dudley wants to know why Harry is not coming with them. Uncle Vernon says he does not want to which Harry agrees. Dudley now admits to not thinking Harry is a waste of space and going so far as to thank Harry for saving his life.
Yeah, character development.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. I could have swore there was more to that line than I don't think you're a waste of space.
Mm-hmm. I know that was the thing that, yeah.
Then again, it's the UK. Calling someone a cunt is a term of endearment.
And I think they shook hands, too, which was...
Yes, it just said they shook hands.
Yeah, which... Awesome.
Anyway.
Harry hated the place.
I thought that was my line.
Oh, was it? Sorry.
Yes. Harry hated the place. There.
Okay. He walked over to the cupboard under the stairs. He sealed the wood of the door into the wood of the frame surrounding it. Vernon or any future owners would have to physically cut into the wood to restore this tiny bit of space.
Congratulations, you no longer have a room.
Honestly, okay. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here. That kind of sounds like something Harry might have done, actually, if he given the chance. Just seal off his old room just to give his relatives kind of the middle finger type thing.
Yeah, but in this case, there's not much of a reason to do it, being as his parents would still have to die for him to ever end up with them, and that was also part of Dumbledore's plan, was to have him be raised by them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of factors that the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, pretty sure the Harry being a Horcrux is what caused the Dursleys to start acting the way they did theory some credence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that theory and it makes sense.
Let's see. Harry wouldn't let this bit of his history be turned into a mere home for vacation cleaners and scouring products. It would remain a mystery that Vernon and Petunia would never figure out.
As he walked through the rest of the house, even the basement, Harry decided on what he would do. He would cast a magic detection charm on something innocuous in the house. It would alert Harry in the event that Vernon and Petunia kept having children and one of them turned out magical. He also decided to cast a calming ward across the house and lawn.
Oh, God. To Harry, the house had always felt tense and strained. It had been filled with anger, bullying, and cutting words. So you're brainwashing them into being complacent.
It's not brainwashing, it's magic.
I believe that was part of the Leviathan plot of Supernatural.
Huh.
And the ones doing that to humanity were intending to use them as cattle.
Huh.
And also technically turn their blood into a poison that would kill vampires, but that's besides the point. I'm not kidding, that happened.
That's funny, I like it.
Yeah, as soon as that was, like, that got revealed to, like, the alpha vampire, which is what caused him to, like, quote-unquote aid the Winchesters as they needed his blood, as he was the only known alpha to still exist.
Okay.
Because the alpha shapeshifter had been decapitated.
I need to keep watching Supernatural. It gets crazy in later seasons.
I haven't even gotten to the Scooby-Doo episode yet.
I'm still in season 1.
Let's see. Oh, no, it's... No, it's my turn. Okay, yeah. Let's see. To Harry, it's... Okay. They had been filled with anger, bullying, and cutting words. Harry wondered if even a calming influence would keep Vernon from being a vicious sort of human. It would keep Dudley from being spoiled and about as worthless as they come, even with his rather pathetic apology just prior to Harry's 17th birthday.
Okay, screw you. That was heartfelt.
Fuck off, author. Wow.
He set to work on the house and was finished in 20 minutes. He was giving the Dursley family only one opportunity. If they ever crossed his path for harming a magical child or for ever saying the word freak in his presence, they would have mysterious heart attacks in the night. Oh my God!
What the fuck?
Heart attacks the Muggles would attribute to stress and unhealthy eating habits. Why?
Oh my God.
This is literally premeditated murder.
Yes!
Oh, come on.
Based on an assumption that they would turn out the way they were for you regardless, despite the fact that you've already seen how Horcruxes affect people. You think Ginny would have released the giant snake without the Horcrux?
Probably not.
It warped her mind, man. Hell, there's probably a good chance that the reason that Dudley apologized was because of the fact that the majority of the year he was free from Harry's influence, making it to where it wasn't causing the same effects as it was the rest of his life. And as he was young,
Let's just keep reading so we can get done with this quicker.
I was willing to give them a single chance.
Harry walked out of the backyard, relocking the door as he went. He continued down the path and eventually cut over to Wisteria Walk, where Arabella Figg had lived. Right now, the house sat unfinished, waiting for windows to be installed. Given the weather, it was rather late in the year still to be constructing housing. Was
Then
Arabella,
again,
was
what?
Arabella Figg the wizard lady who bailed Harry and Dudley out from when they were being chased by the Dementor in which one was it? Was it Order of the Phoenix or was it Goblet of Fire?
Let's see. I'm seeing a picture of her in that alleyway, so I guess so. Yeah, she was a squib. So
Yeah, that's what I thought. She was kind of the one who like Harry.
she couldn't do magic, but she was part of the wizarding world.
Yeah, so kind of a reverse Muggle-born wizard type situation.
I guess
But
so, yeah.
yeah, she was the one who I believe Harry had stayed over at her house being watched by her a couple times, and he was always bored out of his mind there or something.
But
I think I
it's
might
not
be
that she bailed them out, it's more that she gave them a place to hide afterwards, being as Harry chased off the Dementor using the Patronus charm.
Yeah, there we go.
Then again, Harry wasn't a Muggle construction manager. What did he know? Not a lot, but a lot of things, apparently.
December 14th, 1979.
Strange to say, but Harry Potter's favorite bar was the Busted Bucket in Godric's Hollow. It was located on a small strip of mostly magical businesses that used light-repelling wards to protect themselves. Oh, wait, shit. Muggles could see the Busted Bucket, but none ever had the inclination to come to this bar. The occasional batty human who resisted the wards forgot about the bar entirely when they hit the second level of wards just at the door. The whole thing worked out just fine. I think it'd be funnier if it had an effect to where, like, if Muggles left the bar, they forgot about it. So, like, they could come in, drink, but the moment they left, they forgot they ever went there.
Huh, I need a drink. Goes to another bar. Harry slipped inside.
Talk about the pub crawl. You don't even remember the first bar you went to.
Harry slipped inside because he wanted to listen to the Wizarding Wireless coverage of the last Truth Commission hearing of the year.
Wizarding Wireless!
That sounds like a wizard cell phone service, not gonna lie.
In the 70s. Wizarding Wireless!
I'm assuming it's talking about, like, radio, but, like, I don't know.
But radio-based things weren't common in the wizarding world because the wizarding world prefers to go with purely magical means instead of electrical. Therefore, they would not be using something that is based on a radio. They would probably be using something that works similar to it, some sort of, like, magical signal being used, but it would not be a radio.
Dude, I've just learned to not ask questions and just kind of...
Ah! The things this person comes up with are stupid.
Wizarding Wireless, we've got you covered.
It'd be like seeing a TV being used by a wizard in that universe. It wouldn't make sense because they avoid, like, Muggle technology. The fact that the Weasleys had a flying car was considered weird among wizards.
He wanted to get a read of average folks, which is why he hadn't attended the session in person.
He took his favorite stool at the bar. Gilly water, please.
He looked like an old, darkly tanned wizard. The bartender didn't pay him a second glass. It didn't pay him a second glass. All right, buddy, you've had enough. After he sat,
I'm cutting you off.
After he set the drink on the bar.
So gilly water, is that, like, made from gilly root? Was it gilly root or gillyweed?
I don't know.
Gillyweed. Gillyweed. So, is this a drink that turns you into a fish man?
Maybe. Okay, so you've heard the term, he drank like a fish. Maybe this is just taking it to a meta level.
He drank into a fish. Wait.
Yes.
Wait, that sounds weird. Much obliged.
Harry set 2 sickles down, which was the price of the drink and a hefty tip included. He just intentionally marked himself as a wizard with means. He'd get good service here for the rest of his visit.
You just said that it was this that Muggles like
It makes sense if you don't think about it.
Oh, I need to signify that I'm a wizard at this bar that Muggles immediately forget about the moment they reach the door.
I think he meant as a wizard with means, like, oh, he's wealthy.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was he identified himself as a wizard using means. That's what I thought it meant.
Okay, now I can understand your confusion a little more.
I was like, wait. By using the specific wizard money, I have identified myself as a wizard. Like, that's what I thought it was saying.
Aye.
He walked over toward the wizarding wireless. He wanted to be close by to get all the details. He took a seat in a booth with a good view of the rest of the room. There were quite a few folks already in attendance.
The music from the little box cut away to silence. Then a woman's voice filled the room. Today, the Truth Commission will begin the formal voting on granting of amnesty. Amnesty. Thank you. I'm tired. For crimes committed during the recently ended war. Only those who freely testified before us are at all eligible for amnesty. A group of open cases cannot even be decided yet until all the parties concerned are heard. However, this first list contains mostly those held under the Imperious Curse, and all of the names have corroboration from the Death Eaters in Azkaban who testified under Veritaserum.
Shuffling of papers was just loud enough to transmit over the wireless. It filled the room for a few moments before the woman began speaking again.
Our first case will be Arthur Weasley of the Ministry's Misuse of Muggle Artifacts Office.
Oh, sorry, Scrubbing Cthulhu.
What?
There's this one, Pet Cthulhu mobile game, and it had a sequel, and I downloaded it, and so I have a baby Cthulhu that I am now feeding steak.
Huh, okay.
I have to do something, otherwise there's a chance he might eat one of the cultists soon.
Yeah.
I only have 5.
Okay.
Harry heard a few exclamations from the bar folk. A good man, Arthur. Poor it's true, but he stands for his ideals. Rather than not had that one completely a-twitted with muggles, you know.
Testimony and recovered memories suggesting that Mr. Weasley was under the Imperious Curse when he smuggled out Ministry records naming quite a few of the Muggle-born wizards in our world. Mr. Weasley freely testified on October 3rd of this year. He has also sent a letter which he asked to be read into the record prior to our deliberations on his case.
I accidentally caused him to be overweight for a half second. Whoops. I solved it with radishes.
Is that how Mafia works?
That is how Cthulhu works. Level 1 Cthulhu.
Level 99 Cthulhu, but bigger.
Level 99 Cthulhu boss. Oh, God. Dear members, I wish to thank you. For allowing me to... okay, this is probably Arthur, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
His letter.
Mm-hmm.
Dear members, I wish to thank you for allowing me to recount what little I could remember of my role in unwillingly aiding the Death Eaters to ensure this particular type of incident doesn't happen again on my watch. I have drafted legislation to do away with taxes and records that pertain specifically to Muggle-born witches and wizards. I have also drafted a set of rules preparing anti-Imperious Curse walls to be erected at every departmental entrance. I cannot express how deeply ashamed I am at the actions I was forced to undertake, but I can help to prepare us all for any unscrupulous types who may attack us at our weak points in the future.
I write today most specifically concerning my role in the Order of... Since the date of my testimony, I have learned a great deal of additional information concerning that body that gives me great pause. I did not learn until November of the Order's torture questioning and eventual killing of the Death Eater Sturgis Podmore. I did not even know he had been a double agent of the Order until the newspapers broke the account. I do not condone that sort of conduct, and I cannot understand how people I once trusted resorted to those measures. Even if Podmore's questioning revealed the names of 2 other traitors, I think there were better ways, legal ways, of handling the situation.
You know, like blackmail. I just leveled up Baby Cthulhu.
Nice.
He has a body now.
Nice.
He's not just a head. Okay. Thank you for your attention to my concerns. I wish you the best of luck in your ponderous endeavors. May Merlin favor the brave.
England prevails.
God save the Queen!
Harry surveyed the barroom. A number of people were nodding. No one was scowling. It boded well. People could at least smell honest intentions. Smell you later, Gramps.
Smells like sausage. I don't know what else I was thinking for what it smells like.
Smells like sausage and biscuits and gravy.
Conversation on the Wizarding Wireless continued for 5 minutes before the voting started. All but one of the commissioners, Sorcha McGoohan. I repeat my last joke about the name.
I just...
Gonna make goo and Sorcha.
It's just... I don't know if they were trying to think of names that sounded like wizard names, or if they used a fantasy name generator or something like that. I don't know.
Cobblepot ass bottom.
What?
I'm sorry, but does that not sound like an English name?
What did
Cobblepot ass bottom not sound like a British name? As opposed to Sorcha McGowan.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Who rejected amnesty but declined to state why, authorized Arthur's official forgiveness for committing crimes under the Imperious Curse. I'm sorry I was mind-controlled into crime. The amnesty was very specific about what was being forgiven. He could still come under charges for his role in the Order of the Phoenix.
Next on docket for amnesty, Albus Dumbledore's role.
Roll for charisma.
Roll a wisdom save.
Oh, fuck, he's maxed out in that stat. And he has proficiency in most of those skills. And the saving throw.
Oh, look, he rolled a nat 1.
I thought it was going to be, oh, look, he rolled a nat 20. We're fucked.
We rolled a nat 1. That only brings his total to 19 rather than 20.
That was all the farther she got. A heavily accented voice, Spanish most likely, said, I would like to... God damn it. That was starting to go borderline Italian. They'll make him an offer he can't refuse.
Go for it.
I would like to table any amnesty for Mr. Dumbledore until we've heard all the witnesses.
That was
terrible. God awful. An affront to humanity.
Not good, but it wasn't as bad as what you're saying.
It wasn't good. It wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't good.
The woman took a second before responding. We'll put it to a vote. It was unanimous for tabling the motion. Harry doubted whether a majority of the commission would ever vote to pick the subject up again.
We need to stop putting this off. Meh. Next week. I said that last week. Yeah, and I'll say it again. Moving on, the amnesty request for Mr. William Pickering.
Harry tuned out the rest of the meeting. Most of the others did too. It was a relief that Dumbledore's gambit with the Commission had failed. The old man had proclaimed in the Prophet not 1 week ago that I will receive forgiveness and official amnesty for the things I've done to save our great nation.
It seemed not.
Dumbledore only had his reputation and his dwindling influence at Hogwarts. He had been kicked off the Wizengamot completely in the last 3 weeks for his crimes against the state. He had fought the Board of Governors to a 6-6 split against demanding his removal as headmaster.
And don't even get me started on his crimes against fashion. Star-patterned robes?
He's a wizard. He doesn't need to adhere to the rules of fashion.
Are you kidding me? You're wearing robes. Fashion is even more important then.
Okay, if you're a wizard who can literally summon lightning from the sky...
You have to be very specific about the types of robes you use. You don't want your look so ridiculous that despite all your massive amounts of power, nobody can take you seriously as soon as they see you.
Who cares? It's like, okay, if I've got magic...
The clothes make the man.
I mean, I guess the dress for the job you want can go either way.
Yeah, they tell you that, but they always get upset whenever the job you were looking for strip.
Maybe it's fashionable for wizards to be unfashionable. We don't know. I'm just a muggle.
He was in his waning days of influence, even with the Daily Prophet, which is comma splice, not comma splice. Lack of comma, god damn it. Which had started in on the Dumbledore is a nutter spiel for a few decades early.
The positive attention the Prophet was dishing out was meant for Harris Potter, who had reluctantly decided he had to stand for Minister of Magic.
I'm being forced into this role.
I don't want to be Minister of Magic. So I'm going to
being Minister of Magic.
I just imagine, okay, the movie premise of like the who doesn't want to be president. What if it's Harris Potter who doesn't want to be Minister of Magic? So he tries to do this whole bunch of outlandish things to get impeached or whatever the equivalent is for the wizarding world.
And it keeps backfiring. Horribly. And that good things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Shit, where was that line? Oh, yeah. Harry wandered back to the bar and got a second gilly water. He was having a hard time breathing due to the fact that he currently had gills. He left a significant tip again. Good tippers got remembered, but not in any negative respect. Gee! And here I thought that you got remembered negatively for leaving a big tip.
Repetition.
I guess I was just wrong in that respect.
Yeah, man. Listen to what this article, what this fan fiction is writing. They've got some really awesome. Oh man, I can't even say that sentence.
Oh my god, that line was so stupid.
All right,
like that was a really fucking stupid line.
Stupid enough you want to finish with this section, or do you want to finish the chapter?
We need to finish the chapter so that I don't have to deal with this fucking story anymore.
Okay.
Because dear fucking god.
Still got a little bit of line left.
Yeah. Harry's persona of the day would just be the quiet man who came to the bar to listen to the wireless. He wouldn't be skulking sort who demanded extra scrutiny.
This time, Harry sat down at the bar and sipped his drink.
The bartender started up a conversation. Been following the campaigns?
Harry smiled and nodded. A couple of interesting folks.
Just glad that Helgok realized it was time to retire.
Harry sipped.
I'm backing Potter myself. I always thought the idea of a non-willing minister was great, the bartender said. I flew down first thing to the ministry and fill in my ballot.
Potter, don't know too much about the man.
Very nice man, owns the cottage on the other side of town. Spends a few weeks every year with his son James. He was born there on one of Harry's Harry's vacations.
Put the apostrophe in the wrong spot. Oh, good lord.
You know, no, it's not even, they forgot an S. No, I had him in this tavern here last spring. Bright chap, very kind. Best sort, you know. Too many smart folks get cruel and arrogant. You see, like you know who, or that guy who executed him.
Harry nodded, then stopped for a second.
You think Potter will win?
I'm fairly sure of it. Some anonymous soul decided to draft him into the campaign, you remember. 3 of the other folks left the race after Potter officially declared. Most of the ones I chat with think Potter will do well.
Harry raised his nearly empty glass. Here's hoping you're right. God, I'm having a hard time. Wait, shit. Here's hoping you're right. God, I'm having a hard time breathing. It really wasn't a good idea to give myself gills on land.
January 1st, 1980.
As expected, the New Year's Day celebration in Diagon Alley was bitterly cold, but Harry couldn't stay away. He bundled up extra warmly to the point where he barely needed any disguise at all. Only wisps of his golden were visible underneath his hat and thick coats. None of his skin was noticeable. This is just, it's escalating.
And at this point in time, the writer suffered a sudden stroke. And how did the line go?
James' name.
A similarly bundled man came out onto a platform that had been erected earlier this morning.
What was extremely odd about this man is that he was only seemed to have his top half bundled, as his shins were extremely visible under his trench coat. Very odd indeed. Yes, I'd recognize those nipples anywhere. Like, face completely impossible to see.
Oh, jeez.
That still flashes you. He had opted for an old form of swearing in. The man on the platform was Harry's grandfather, the new Minister of Magic. Harry, with an I.
He had opted for an old form of swearing in, outdoors in front of a general audience with none of the trappings of office, making an oath on his magic to perform to the best of his abilities. No minister had used the old form in nearly 300 years. Man, it was going to be a memorable swearing in, especially when the new Minister of Magic turned and flashed the audience.
Well, I just saw my grandfather's dick. Not sure how to feel about that.
I feel intimidated.
Ever heard the phrase hung like a horse? That doesn't even begin to cover it. Or his. Damn it. There was no one else on the platform. There was no ornamentation, no decorations. It was going to be a very boring swearing in.
At the stroke of noon, Minister Potter lowered the hood of his cloak and addressed the crowd. By my magic, I take up the duties of Minister of Magic. By my magic, I swear to perform my level best. By my magic, I forswear lying, deceit, and half-truths. So mote it be.
By my magic, I'm bigger than Jesus. Damn it. No one said anything. The oath Harris Potter had just sworn was stronger than anyone had expected. Was it? Was it? He had just sworn off lying in all its forms while in office. Could anyone maintain that sort of oath? It seemed Minister Potter had to, otherwise he'd lose his magic. He was an old man, about to turn 123. And the loss of his magic would surely kill him. I feel like you're introducing a magic system into Harry Potter that wasn't quite the one that was in play.
I think it was stated at some point in time that magic made wizards live a little bit longer than regular humans, or
That's
it was
not the thing I'm
implied.
talking about.
Oh. Oh, okay. You're talking
I'm
about
talking
the swearing.
about the swearing on your magic thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean that's dumb. He's not even using pseudo Latin. Come on. It's
I make corpses as I speak.
He'd made his service to the ministry a life and death matter.
Harry Potter didn't know whether to be terrified for his grandfather or pleased with the man's dangerous idolism. Dear God, the nation is fucked.
Don't worry, he'll probably die of a heart attack in the next couple months anyway.
The last thing you ever want in charge is an idealist.
Yeah.
How people die.
Harris Potter stepped off the platform and began, in a ceremonial fashion, grasping the hands of everyone who'd braved the temperature to see his inauguration. Harry got to touch his grandfather's hand for a second time ever, albeit briefly.
He walked away from the crowd as everyone else flew into the ministry. The banquet had been set up in the atrium.
Harry hoped he'd done the right thing, pushing his grandfather into office.
Little did he know that he had just signed the man's death warrant. It seemed the right thing to do.
But Harris Potter seemed determined to ensure he died in office, probably from some minor lie he'd tell, which would strip his magic and his life from him. Brave but foolish, the epitome of Gryffindor.
No, I don't think that makes you look fat.
There goes my magic.
February 12th, 1980.
Harry scowled as he apparated to the scene of a crime. 3 wizards who had testified last week before the Truth Commission had been killed. Their bodies had been found just inside the Forbidden Forest, nearest to Hogsmeade.
3 people all connected together because of the Truth Commission. It wasn't a coincidence. Something was brewing. Is that a wizard joke?
Enter 3 witches. By the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes.
You were saying?
God damn it. Harry whispered...
going to garrot the author.
Harry whispered Shakespeare's words to himself. The squib from the line of Hathaway witches had been brilliant. And yet another thing Harry hadn't learned of in Ben's history class. If it wasn't goblin, troll, or giant, it didn't matter to the man. Why the heck does that matter at this point in time?
What? I'm trying to figure out what? Harry was concerned that he had no idea, no timeline to try and understand what was happening. You no longer have your cheat sheet, bitch.
He's realizing this.
Since Harry had killed Voldemort, all his future knowledge had become worthless. Much like Harry.
I could see the future.
Now you can see the future.
What this killing meant, Harry had no idea.
But he was going to make lazy Shakespeare references regardless. He saw the Aurors trying to collect spell residue and identify what had happened and when. They'd already been here for hours and they seemed to be completely baffled. Harry had only heard of it because of the listening charms he'd set up outside the entrance to the ministry. Frustrated Aurors could reveal a lot without intending to. I mean, if you're going to make a Shakespeare reference, at least do the country affairs joke.
Or, yeah, no, I can't come up with a witty response.
I mean, it was a prolonged joke Shakespeare did about vagina.
Harry walked around disillusioned, trying to spot anything probative? I think that's how you say that.
Yeah. Oh, God, now I just want to find that one, because that one... country... affairs... Shakespeare... Wait, Did Mental Floss steal this one from this article from cracked.com?
I don't know, maybe.
Let's see. Let me see if I can. Okay, so it's Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 2. Lady, shall I lie in your lap? No, my lord. No, my lord. I mean, my head upon your lap. I, my lord. Think I meant country matters. I think nothing, my lord. That's a fair thought to lie between a maid's legs. What is, my lord? Nothing. And just so you know, with the rhyme scheme that Shakespeare was using, the emphasis on the line "country affairs" was on the word. Was on the syllable "cunt." I mean, country matters.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think I meant country? Country matters. God damn it. There's another one. There's one of them that has a prolonged fat joke in which they compare this one woman in the play to a globe, and they're describing the different points of the globe on her body. That's fucked up. But dear God.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what line?
After 30 minutes.
Okay. After 30 minutes, he gave it up as a bad job. There wasn't anything in the woods to be found.
Dead wizards tied to the commission, but 2 of them had supported the dark. A third had been a ministry official who'd been an Auror in 1970 before he moved to a desk. They had nothing obvious in common, aside from their testimony.
Harry felt so in control when he returned into this timeline. He had documentation, dates, activities, and ideas for stopping the Death Eaters. I almost said Death Wizards.
Now Harry had nothing. He was an acrobat working without a net. No one knew the risks he was taking. Harry knew nothing of what his actions might cause to happen.
No pair thought of acting without certainty. I also am really upset that you didn't read that fuck up at the end of your previous line.
/P carrot?
Yes.
Sorry.
Something had just started. The 3 deaths were some kind of sign. Fuck.
What they meant, Harry didn't know, but he felt afraid. He knew it was the beginning of something unpleasant.
You mean like this story?
Watch this be like a time paradox, like freaking Light and Dark.
Had Voldemort's reign been a mere nuisance compared to whatever was about to happen? Had Harry hoped he hadn't changed time just to unleash something even worse than Voldemort? It's the killing baby Hitler dilemma in which you accidentally cause the USSR to take over the world.
Somehow he knew that fate still hated him. Yeah, fate's not the only one.
All of us. March 3rd, 1980.
Ronald Weasley was born on March 1st, 1980. According to what Harry observed, the boy was as loud and hungry as an infant as he would later be in life.
Harry also watched his conception. Harry was lurking around the burrow to commit an act of premeditated murder, the first and only time he'd killed in such a matter.
Harry Potter was going to kill Ginevra Weasley before the girl was ever born. Okay, hold on a sec. If she went crazy in the old timeline, it was because of Voldemort, right? Or like just because Harry was a Horcrux?
No, that was years after the fact.
Why did she go
crazy? It's just because this author dislikes the fact that Harry didn't hook up with who they wanted Harry to hook up with. So they needed to make a story in which Ginny turned out to be evil so that they could create this whole narrative, regardless of sense.
Angry shipper. Oh boy. Okay.
Yes. That was why he was lurking and waiting, masturbating in the bushes. He'd caught sight of Molly Weasley earlier in the day. The woman had given birth 2 days earlier. She was back up cooking and cleaning. Of course, with a brood the size she had, she couldn't let things slip too long. I'm really uncomfortable about your use of the word brood.
Mm-hmm. At 11:14 in the morning, he'd had an opportunity to kill Ginny, but Molly had moved from the window.
Wait, but Ginny was... Wait. Ginny hasn't been born yet. Oh God, he's going to kill Molly.
Maybe, I don't know.
Oh God. Yeah, he is. He's gonna do something. So he remained, waiting.
He saw Charlie tending after the twins. Percy was off reading a too thick book. Bill must have...
Don't you fat shame the book. Some people like their books thick.
We still talking about books here.
Maybe.
Bill must have been at Hogwarts already. A first year, perhaps? Wow, I phrased that question really weird. Yeah, well.
Let's see. Arthur Weasley returned to the outer edge of the wards just after 5 o'clock. Harry tagged the man with an infertility curse as soon as he had a clear shot. What the fuck?
He spent another 30 minutes waiting before he was able to slake his desire for vengeance. Molly left the house for a few moments. She was apparently trying to pluck some fresh herbs for the dinner she was preparing.
No matter, Harry took aim and unleashed the curse at the woman. He'd ensured that a baby named Ginevra would never attend Hogwarts, never meet Harry Potter, and never betray Harry and his 3 children. It was awful. It was justice. It's really fucking stupid.
Ugh. As is this fanfiction. May 7th, 1980.
Dear God, I think I might have just had a slight aneurysm from how fucking stupid that moment was. Oi. The Daily Prophet carried an enormous headline. Witness killer located. Witch in throes of dementia arrested.
Harry devoured the article and found little of value in it.
It didn't taste very good.
Paper rarely does. The Aurors weren't commenting on who the witch was or how she'd been identified. The only new piece of information was that the woman was suspected of 7 total killings. All of the victims had testified in front of the commission.
Okay. But that means 4 murders went unreported.
Harry wasn't surprised at the realization. Oh, we're back to monologuing. Oh boy. He was a bit dumbfounded that the Prophet hadn't even acknowledged their lax reporting of recent weeks and months.
Nothing's changed, has it? The newspaper is still unreliable. Minister Grandfather is so bogged down cleaning out the ministry that the present work is falling to the wayside. At least he finally sacked the Lord Umbridge and that awful Runcorn fellow. But it's too much for any one person to accomplish.
It might actually be better to start over from scratch.
I shall use the Infinity Gauntlet to destroy the universe and create a new one in my image. Wait. Spoilers.
Hey.
God damn it. Dangerous thought, but the longer Harry was in this timeline, the more frustrated he became. The Truth Commission was getting the truth out there, but it didn't seem to be having an effect. The Dark families were still marginalized and angry. The other families still shifted in whatever direction the winds blew.
There was no war, but it seemed like nothing else had changed.
Harry, I just want you to remember that when Anubis weighs your heart, Amit will devour your soul. There's no getting around it, Harry, especially not after the sins you've committed.
And now you're monologuing.
And I shall watch. And I shall laugh. Harry could only do so much from the shadows, and he was unprepared to act in the light of day.
There wasn't anything Harry could yet do, but he also wasn't satisfied just to sit back and observe. He hadn't come here to improve the world only to watch it descend into chaos again.
You've caused the chaos. You started the fire. It has
Who
always
started
been burning
this war?
since you appeared.
You started this war, plunged Skyrim into chaos, and now the Empire is going to take you down.
The whole world is on fire. We started the fire. We can't put out the fire. Aye. The demented witch would be the guilty party, but had she become demented naturally or with some assistance? Was she part of a large movement? Was it something... Oh, was this thing?
Harry's mind twirled with questions and self-recriminations. He'd thought everything would be fine. He thought he'd settled the world down, but had he done anything of utility? No.
Would the peace last? It hadn't began.
Harry felt a bit silly feeling so silly. Oh my God. That phrase just came out of my mouth.
I mean, a lot dumber things have come out of your mouth, but...
Well, yes, but this one feels dumb. But he'd been looking for nefarious plots his whole since the age of 11. Even as an Auror, he'd had to deal with 3 nascent Dark Lords trying to rally support in Britain. Thankfully, none had been as intelligent, as organized, or as insane as Voldemort.
He wished he had someone to talk to. The life he'd picked had been so lonely, almost impossibly so. Well, maybe if you just went out and got laid, we wouldn't have this problem, now would we, Harry? There was no one to bounce ideas off of. No one to perform reality checks to ensure he was still operating in the realm of the sane. You've never operated in the realm of the sane for as long as this story has been going on.
It was impossible to live like this. But inconceivable.
Stupidly?
Yeah. But inconceivable to do anything different at this point. He couldn't go back to the future. He'd already changed everything about that time. There would be no place for him there, just as there was no real place for him here.
Let me scroll down. He
Roughly
shoved it all away. It didn't matter. He would not be getting laid.
He had no get focused again. The future would unfold as it did. Thing that mattered was ensuring peace in the here and now.
He had no get focused again. Autocorrect fucked you on that one. The N and the T aren't even anywhere close to each other. There were obviously many more Death Eaters exposed this time around, running around the streets naked. What if some of the ones who hadn't been exposed were still operating, or Death Eaters, unmarked supporters, were retaliating in some way, or the Dark Wizards who opposed Voldemort were now acting? There were many different groups to investigate.
The leisure Harry had envisioned for himself was over.
Mostly it would consist of playing Leisure Suit Larry. There was work to be done.
July 31st, 1980.
It was all worth it.
All the years of waiting, watching, and trying to nudge the world back into shape.
He'd finally blown up the Ministry. Harry James Potter had just been born. Harry stood outside the Potter Manor as he was conceived. When it happened, there'd been the exclamations of joy.
That one was just too easy.
He'd seen his mother's own face. Exhalation of joy ripple through the menfolk lounging in the backyard.
Good lord.
That was the stupidest sentence I'd ever heard. The menfolk. That's a thing people say unironically.
Harry apparated away.
He had gifts for the baby, most of them explosive.
Since the world had begun to fall apart again, Harry paid closer attention to those who'd never been corrupted into the Death Eaters this time around.
Whose fault is that, Harry? Whose fault is that?
It didn't make them innocents in Harry's book. It just didn't give them opportunities to expose what they really were.
Peter Pettigrew, still a close friend to the Potters, would betray James, Lily, and Harry given half a chance. His quiet, simmering jealousy would almost demand it.
Peter Pettigrew had to go.
Harry arrived at the apartment building where Peter lived when he wasn't working for the Totenhouse Greenery, a potion supply company in Wiltshire.
Harry used Muggle means to pick the door. As a half-blood who'd grown up mostly Muggle, Peter maintained a Muggle identity and walked inside. Pettigrew was snoring in a chair.
For some reason, I read that as snorting a chair, but let's move on.
You do crack? That's cute. I do chair.
Doesn't even grind it up or anything. Just snorts an entire chair. How did you do that? I'd say the really impressive part was the fact that he rolled up a dollar bill to do it through. It's just more and more confusing the more I look at it.
Hey man, magic makes all sorts of things possible.
Oh, that was good. I mean, you really want to do this. You really want to go for skill points. What you do, you fold your thumb back as far as it'll go naturally under the power of your own arm muscle, so that it creates that little pocket where your thumb meets your wrist.
Mm-hmm.
Now, typically, what you do is you'd pile up some cocaine in that little nook, and you'd snort it from there. But no, being as we're snorting chairs, what you do is you balance an entire love seat on that tiny little nook, and you inhale that motherfucker.
This has gone in a very strange direction in the best way possible.
Harry quickly stunned the traitorous piece of filth and transfigured him into a beautiful white mouse. Since it was itself transfiguration, Peter wouldn't be able to reverse it. I mean, now I'm just thinking about D&D rules in which you can't use polymorph on a shapeshift.
Mm-hmm.
The mouse would be susceptible to the traditional lifespan of... God, I cannot do that voice.
Mm-hmm.
To the traditional lifespan of rodents, rather than an animagus' lengthy lifespan. I almost said rifespan.
Rather than an animagus' lengthy lifespan. Harry apparated to the gymnasium of the school he had attended in Little Winging. He Winging? I can't tell.
Let me see. Little Whinging. I'm whinging right now reading this story.
He suspected the children of the second grade class might enjoy a new class pet.
Harry was glad to volunteer Peter Pettigrew for this duty.
Harry stalked invisible through the empty school. He arrived at the correct classroom and noted the placard next to the door that the same woman who was teaching in the room as had taught him and Dudley.
Cusco's poison. Poison for Cusco. The poison specifically meant to poison Cusco. That poison. God, accidentally turns Peter into a llama.
A llama? He's supposed to be dead!
Now how am I supposed to give him over as a class pet? Class llamas aren't a thing.
We should make them a thing.
Oh god, llama is really weird to say with an English accent. Llama. Llama.
Llama. What am I doing?
Llama. It's almost as weird as saying margarita.
That doesn't sound too weird.
I don't know. I heard it in Vegas. I heard this just one British lass behind me go, talking to a friend going, I want a margarita. And it just sounded so weird to say with that accent. Maybe it was her specific regionality that made it sound a bit off. Margarita just had a weird emphasis on syllable in the English accent.
Would have been interesting to hear.
The cage he remembered from when he'd been in school was still there. It had 2 mice already excited, along with an automatic feeder and watering mechanism. It really was a nice contraption. Peter should love his new home. What the fuck is wrong with you, Harry?
At least he didn't kill him.
Unlike how he technically, time killed his wife.
Yeah, well...
And actually killed his wife.
Harry placed the mouse pettigrew into the cage. Then he added some magical enhancements to the device. He made the entire cage impervious to breakage. It also sealed the door to the device for as long as the mouse pettigrew was still alive.
So nobody can open the cage?
Nope, I guess not.
Alright, class, one of you needs to clean out the mouse cage. We can't!
We can't. It doesn't open.
They're drowning in their own shit.
Oh, God.
Damn it. Okay. Shit.
He innervated
the small beast as he was halfway across the room. He could hear frantic squeaking. Pettigrew already understood something of his fate. He would never betray anyone this time around. Harry wouldn't permit any threats to his younger self.
Not even from the good friend Peter Pettigrew. May Merlin favor him and end his life soon. Oh my... Just...
Harry's really become a cunt, hasn't he?
Just a little bit.
From here on, I shall be replacing the word Harry with the wee cunt. The wee cunt apparated away as soon as he closed the classroom door.
He should have felt somewhat guilty for what he'd done, but he felt nothing. The longer he stayed in this timeline, the colder he became. First the infertility curses, then the dispatching of Pettigrew.
I mean, that really might just be the bad writing.
Maybe.
Who knew? Perhaps the wee cunt would kill the non-Death Eater Severus Snape just to round out his revenge, and to ensure the horrible twisted mind never interacted with the wee cunt Potter in any way.
Harry returned to the White Estate and walked up the stairs to the 3rd floor.
You coward!
He had a blood ritual to conduct. It was meant to grant newborn babies protection in their first few years. It was powerful magic. Not as powerful as willing sacrificial magic, but powerful still.
The wee cunt had worked out that he could use his own blood to protect the newborn wee cunt.
It was Harry's second gift on the day of his birth. Something this important deserves some powerful gifts.
The wee cunt began letting his own blood and chanting the old language with a look of extreme happiness on his face. He was orgasming.
Oh dear, he's become a masochist.
Not the fun kind.
The timeline had changed, and not changed. Voldemort was dead. Harry Potter was alive and unscarred. James and Lily would survive, we think. Harris Potter was the Minister of Magic.
Things would be different.
Oh boy, well...
Dear God!
That was...
Hey, the next chapter is called Unintended Consequences.
Maybe the author will actually get some self-awareness and turn Harry into the villain. I'm an optimist!
God, I'm hungry.
See y'all later.
I guess we'll come back to the adventures of the wee cunt next week.